Sivga, the company whose name sounds like a venereal disease but makes headphones that sound like anything but a venereal disease. I want to start out by saying that all four of these, even though you see three right in front of you, really, really impressed me. I think these are a great value for $90. And yeah, you really can't go wrong with either one of these. It just depends what you prefer in terms of sound signature and what your use case scenario is going to be. So this one's going to be a little different, right? Instead of a regular review per headphone, we're doing a direct comparison because I sort of consider all four of these to be like the same headphone, but with slight variances that might make one better than the other for your specific case, use case. So I'm going to begin here with the packaging, right? This right here is the box that it comes with, other than the ones you see over there, which are just, just kind of like a plastic little, paper little cover that's, well, it's fine, you get it, and then you just never use it again. This, however, is made out of hard material and is held together by magnet. This is really, really nice material right here. I definitely feel that the headphones would be protected in here, but we open this up, and here's the case. Of course, this box itself wasn't the case, however. I just wanted to point out that during transport, shipping and stuff, it definitely won't get damaged because it's protected by this and then this on top of that. So, it's really nice. Now, the moment of the reveal. The 004s here in walnut with this concave design near the grill. They all have the same headband. It's this very plush, somewhat heavy design, and it generally looks pretty nice. I can't say for sure this is like 100% metal, but it definitely feels like metal to me, and I don't feel like it would break on you anytime soon. So definite plus one for the build quality for sure. And these are the things it comes with, which I already bundled up here, so I'm not gonna bother taking those out, but I got them right next to me so I can show it off here. 004s, 005s. These are a little different here. These are both in walnut. The 005s have a different grill. It's a silver grill compared to the black grill of the 004s and the 007s, which you're about to see. Same headband, like I said. Okay. 007s. Agent Bond. These are rosewood. In my opinion, I think the rosewood looks a little better than the walnut finish just because it looks a little, I don't know, a little higher end, It just looks a little more quality than the walnut. But yeah, so same grill right here as the 004s. However, 004s have that concave, dip into the cups, whereas these are quite the opposite. These are popped out like that. Pretty interesting. And now the 006s. These are not like the rest at all, right? Same headband, also made out of wood, but these are more rectangular as opposed to the round design of the other three. And these say Sivga on it, and they're completely closed back with the only port and ventilation being up here, the 3 holes on each side. So build quality, all of these get a pass from me. However, as far as comfort goes, they're decently comfortable. If you're sitting somewhere, like say you're on a plane, or please don't use this on a plane, by the way, they're gonna leak like crazy, but just, a random use case, like you're sitting on a bus, you're sitting in public, you're sitting anywhere, right? I don't know, on some chair. They're going to feel okay. However, they're going to feel a little heavy over time, probably after like an hour to 2 hours. You're going to feel a little heavy, and they don't have that airiness where it kind of like cools your ears like open backs do. Your ears will still get warm as time progresses. So keep that in mind. What else? Yeah. That's about it. As far as amping goes, 32 ohms each, which means that they don't really require a whole lot of amping. You can power these off of a smartphone effectively, and they sound just fine. However, power these off of an actual amp, and they get a little better. They get a little better. But as far as buying an amp just for these headphones go, just as far as these headphones go, I wouldn't really recommend that. I would recommend saving up and getting a better headphone and then buying an amp for that headphone. So you can definitely get away with powering these off a mobile phone. Speaking of the stuff that it comes with, an airplane adapter so you can use these on a plane, because you're going to take open back headphones on a plane, I'm so sure. It comes with this long cable right here. It's a very nice quality cable here. It's made out of a fabric material. And I'd say it's somewhere around like 6 feet long. And it comes with the adapter for 1/4 inch, which I think is really nice. That way you can plug it into whatever amp you currently have if you plan on using this with an amp. By the way, they all end in 3.5 millimeter, as you can see right here. Which means that you can definitely connect a V-Moda Boom Pro to any one of these and use them for gaming, which is definitely one of the strong suits of these headphones. I think either one of these would be pretty great for gaming, but we'll get into the specifics later. This cable right here is a shorter cable meant for mobile use. Again, 3.5 to 3.5, except it also comes with a 3-button inline mic and remote. And I haven't tested these on Apple products, but I know for a fact that they do work on Android products. So they work perfectly fine, had no issues with them, and pretty satisfied. Buttons are pretty clicky, very sturdy. They don't feel like they're going to stop working after like a month or so. And yeah, great quality. Just absolutely great build quality and materials. Out of all these, the things that I would consider to be like the least quality of all would probably be the ear pads, which I think you should definitely replace with some brain waves. I think I'll leave a link in the description to some brain waves that you could buy that would definitely improve on these a lot as far as the comfort goes. So you can do that. Be mindful, however, they are a little bit larger than these headphones, so they'll fit just fine. But if you're going to be taking them on and off and taking them to places and blah, 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 I wouldn't really recommend those pads just because they're going to slip off. They're going to have like this little like sliding room, which is perfectly fine if you're just sitting on a desk and you're just putting them on and then taking them off and then leaving. But not if you're going to be walking around, bending over, leaning over, just looking around everywhere. They're definitely going to feel a little slidey, just a little slidey. So keep that in mind. Let's get to the sound comparison here, right? This is what everyone wants. All of these sound pretty similar, but they do have some key differences that you might want to consider if you're going to get one of these, So let's jump into it here. The 004s, these are definitely the most V-shaped out of all of them. The treble is pretty bright. It extends pretty decently, and it offers some great detail, some awesome detail. Bass. Mid-bass is relatively controlled, no issues there. Nothing terrible to report. Of course, it's elevated bass, but not to the point where it's ridiculous. Sub bass, on the other hand, is just overkill. It is just this like so much punch in the sub bass that it just rattles your head. It's incredible. If you're a bass head, I think you should definitely go for these. These are pretty interesting. Or you can go with the 005s, because these, overall, the entire bass frequency is very linear, but it is very elevated. So that includes sub bass and mid bass. These are just like boom for days. That's not really my preference. However, as far as $90 headphones go, where you're not really listening to these like clinically, these are more of like a fun headphone that you have on the side, that you pull out every now and then to feel a boom or just to have a more fun sound signature. It's not very professional, right? I think these do a pretty decent job. The treble, on the other hand, at first feels kind of rolled off. However, there is a peak in the treble that just, I wouldn't say it's extremely harsh, but it's definitely noticeable. And it peaks a little more than the 004s, which, although have the most elevated treble, is more consistent of a treble. These is like the treble's like, okay, okay, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Whoa, it's crazy loud, and it goes back to normal, right? I noticed this in like female vocals where you would have a woman, you know, singing like la di da, la di da, la di da, la, and it's just a little surprising every now and then, and that just it's a little weird. But for the most part, they're pretty fine. 007s. These are, I want to say, the most balanced out of all of them. They're closer to the neutral side. It's like you take the 004s and then you mellow them out a little bit. You know, you make them a little more professional sounding, right? It's like, you know, your kid, your preteen became a teenager and is entering adulthood, so he's like settling down a little and maturing a bit. This is what it sounds like, the 007s. Still elevated bass, still elevated treble to, you know, produce that V-shaped response, but it's more controlled. It's got some very decent bass, you know. It it leans away, and shies away when it needs to, but it comes in with a punch whenever it needs to as well. Out of all of the four, I noticed that these have the stronger kick drum response. You know, in metal, rock, whatever genre that involves a kick drum, these have the stronger slam to it, right? Similar to like HD600s, where I say, well, they don't have big bass. They have very, very lean bass and rolled off bass. But it has that slam to it that I really like. These have something similar, but with elevated bass as well. Treble, they can get pretty hot as well. Not quite as hot as the 004s. Sometimes it kind of varies depending on the track, right? It really varies. Sometimes these are a little brighter, sometimes these are a little brighter, but overall, you can get used to the brightness of both treble responses and be perfectly fine. It's not crazy overkill. It's just pretty bright on both of them, but enjoyable. It's perfectly fine. 006s, on the other hand, this is where it really gets surprising here. So closed back, you would think, oh, these are going to have the biggest bass and the biggest treble because they're closed and they don't have room to breathe, and the cups, the pads are not fenestrated, even though those aren't truly fenestrated, and I'll explain what that means in a bit. So you'd think these would have the most V-shaped response. You'd be wrong. You'd be wrong, actually. These have the most lean bass, the leanest bass out of all four. You hear it and you say, oh, that's pretty controlled. That reminds me of an audiophile response here. That's a nice thing to hear coming from a closed back. And I really enjoyed that. Mids, however, and treble is a little strange. Oh, and this includes the bass. Everything sounds like it's very distant. Like it's not necessarily like a wide soundstage, but more like everyone is just trying to be respectful and not be loud or anything. But then the treble comes in and it introduces this like linear brightness, right? It's very linear. There's no sharpness or craziness going on in the treble. It's smooth. It's elevated, of course, so you can have that brightness, but it's not peaky and harsh and terrible like some headphones that have elevated treble get, right? So it feels a little strange where the bass and the mids are just kind of respectful here, and then the treble comes in like, look at me, I'm a diva, you know. It's just a little, it's all right. Once again, I need to reiterate here. With each and every headphone here, when I'm saying, oh, crazy this, crazy that, or super far away this, super far away that, that doesn't mean in general. That just means in comparison to each other, as far as they relate to each other. So Generally speaking, all of these are V-shaped. However, they vary in the level of how V-shaped they are and what exactly pops out in some things over the others. So let me get back to the fenestrated here. Fenestrated are these little dots right here, these like perforations in the cups. These are meant to give the driver some more breathing room so that they can let sound escape, and it can make it sound a little more balanced, and it can give your ears some ventilation for them to cool off so that they don't get hot as quickly. However, the inside is not fenestrated at all, so this does nothing. It's just for the looks. I don't know what they were thinking there. They might as well just kept everything the way it was, not make anything fenestrated at all. But they did, so hey, I mean, I guess that's what happens when you got Sivga. Uh, Overall, don't take any of these three out in public. They will leak. Doesn't matter that these are semi-open and these are both open back. They all leak the same. I noticed no difference in the leak whatsoever. So consider these out of the equation when taking them into public, and don't even dare take them on a flight because they're going to be terrible on a flight. These, on the other hand, are closed back and they don't isolate the best. They don't prevent sound leak the best, but they're definitely better suited for public use than the other three. Hands down, for sure. Get these for public use. But as far as the public use thing goes, I feel like they're all quite heavy, so it's a little strange. I don't think you should take these for on the go all the time because they're gonna feel quite heavy on your head, and it's gonna weigh you down a bit. So I'm not quite sure I'd recommend these for on the go use, like, standing up, sitting down, taking the bus, walking home, stuff like that. I would reconsider. But hey, I mean, you can buy them, and then if you don't like them because they're too heavy or whatever, then you can just repurpose them to have some other use, or maybe on a desk or at work. Or you can just return them to Amazon because, thank you, Amazon, you have a wonderful return policy that allows people to, try out everything they want and be really nice. You're so nice. Overall, I guess I would rate them like this. Just my preferences. 007, 004. These two tie for first place. In most cases, I think I like the 007s just because they're closer to what I like in a headphone as far as sound signature. But the 004s can take the cake every now and then because it's different, yeah, but well, it's a different thing, Maybe you don't want to get the same sound signature on a different headphone. Maybe you want to get a different headphone because they sound different and you want to hear a difference, right? So that's why I could not decide between the two of these. You know what? You can buy both. You can pick whichever you want based on aesthetics, walnut and concave versus rosewood and elevated. Or you can buy them both and just compare the sounds and then just return the one you don't want, or sell it to someone else, or repurpose it and use it for some other purpose. 005s, I can't say I really like these. They were a little too weird. The treble was a little strange. The bass was just, overemphasized too much. And on top of that, I don't like their design. They just look ugly in comparison to the other two. So, although they're still great, and if the other three didn't exist, these would be fantastic. These do exist, so I'd recommend these two. And as far as the leak goes, again, it's not a big difference. You can just pick whichever of the two you prefer. Whichever of the three you prefer, because they leak the same. It makes no difference whether these are semi-open and these are open. And these I'm not ranking because they're far too different to rank with the other three because these are open back and these are closed. So I'm going to save this one for another video because I have something else in mind that you guys might appreciate. So keep an eye out for the next video with these in it, because that's going to be pretty interesting. What else? Oh, one other thing to point out with the 006 is, it's strange, but I think the design, this rectangular design, just kind of felt loose on the head. A little too loose. For some reason, they just didn't clamp very hard, as opposed to the other three where, yeah, they clamped, but it was necessary to keep them in place, and it felt fine. And I prefer the clamp on the other three as opposed to this one. But again, I don't recommend these for moving around, generally speaking. So if you're just sitting down, at work or something, and you need a close back option, and you're not really leaning over too much, then these might be a good pick. These might be a good pick for you. Also, another thing to point out, the 006 arrived with a defective longer cable. And I verified this just because I tried the other cables that came with these on these, and they worked perfectly fine. So keep in mind that you might receive a defective cable, not a defective pair. So just keep it in mind that it's probably not the headphone that is faulty if there is an issue with the pair that you order. It's probably the cable itself. So yeah, anyway, that does it for my educational STD video. I hope you enjoyed, and practice some safe interactions out there. Don't get too crazy. Don't get Sivga. Actually, get Sivga. You know what? It's fun. It's fun. Get some Sivga and pass around your Sivga to other people. I'm sure they'll enjoy it.